We're live.
Enjoy mental and the changes it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and the changes it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and the changes it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and the changes it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash.
When more study our Quran and questions for Moorish children, prosecutors and magistrates hate us in the admin buildings, challenging jurisdiction, paperwork sent first, no fiat, quenching their money hungry, bloody credit thirst. Trustees benefit when they cheat your estate. That you thought was a provincial state is a big mistake. From corporate plantations, there's no escape or back door unless reserve rights on contract doors. Keep eyes open for, like you misplaced something. It's witchcraft when you hear caught and your heartbeats jumping. Extortion, past due letters, fake money, bounty hunting. Filing public record papers with in-debt counties fronting to have authority. Constitution approved, but those filed papers at the county doesn't stop the abuse. Might as well just put on the noose, shackles and chains on ankles, no boots. In snowstorms with no shame, with no status, no flag, no free national name, with fractional damage, collateral, irrational claims. Catch a psych evaluation or contempt of quasi-court. Calling out what's not in evidence won't set a precedence. This prison of treason and gross negligence, denying due process and sharing the same sentiments on you harder than cement is. If you give them a chance, I'm here to help you not enter their brainwash camps. Keep your neck hidden, no kidding. Watch out for vamps, light revealer, and keep a won't keep casting the lamps. Always giving without expecting thanks. In a b-boy stance, scimitar swinging at outstretched hands.
It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash.
Yo, they run on a flawless elegance, lower self-elements. Get the gentleness, stomp of Hannibal Alp elephants. Taking back our settlements, induce relevant resonance. In full life, ancestral mind, no artificial intelligence. Men turn bionic, high off the seedless hydroponic. Thinking they on it, but what they on it must be demonic. Not Baphomet, Moroccan star on his head. Crescent moons of Islam, he uses caduceus from Kemet. Sitting in meditation, goatee like a Rasta. Raised Kundalini light bursts out the crown chakra. Volcanic viewed HD and panoramic. No ayahuasca root, seeing signs and symbols automatic. Didn't play eyes, cause mine's so wide open. Maybe an omen, can't see truth cause your third eye swollen. And it's not going down no matter what spell smoking. Or your devotion or golden potent potion. Can't even use water frozen Moorish shogun. Says the calcifying chambers now rest in the bottom of oceans. Left hoping, false prophet quoting and chasing. Minds under control like lasers for stealing, graving. Mental blocks and thought barricades, the real enslaving. No cape, no type, no dynamic duo when I'm saving. With heads locked, hot brainwashed, don't think I'm breaking or b-boying. Put scholars, very annoying. With hillbilly sovereigns, knowledge hee-hawing. Being sold out by my own is what has me worried.
It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Fire attack, enjoy mental and it's meant to wake you up, Fire attack, enjoy mental. Wake you up out of your brainwash. Enjoy mental. Wake you up. Fire attack, enjoy mental and it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash.
This is America, searching for more. Bringing you a live presentation of the Moorish movement. I am your host, Nehesu, dog nigga. Brought to you, a critique analysis by Canaanland Moor's Kudjo Ottawa L. Takes a look at the unification that took place in Philadelphia at the annual convention. Did Taharka and Taj Shriek Bay unify? Is there unity amongst the Moors coming together? Are they supporting the prophet's teachings, or are they going rogue? Is there such thing as going rogue? Is one part of the Moorish movement if they're not inside the temple? All those answers and more. So please stay tuned. Well, thank you for joining the Nehesu Dog Nigga Cell and searching for more as I take a quick analysis of what Canaanland Moor stated about the unification of these two individuals. The question is, within Taharka's video, it says part and parcel or part and partial. My point is that can we be part of the Moorish movement without being part of the temple? I would like to say yes to that answer for the simple fact that Drew Ali put us back on the books in the early 1900s. Now that we're on the books and stated, which is stated in the Circle 7 Quran, that we are Canaanites, indigenous to this land. So therefore, how can a temple, or anyone else for that matter, give up their birthright? That reminds me of the story of Esau and Jacob. Jacob means trickery. And what did Jacob do? He tricked Esau out of his birthright. Can you give up what's divinely yours if God ordained it through man's trickery? I think we need to take another look at this book and see here that there's individuals who may be propagandizing for their own. That seems to be the notion from Canaanland Moors, is that individuals are selling out your birthright. Are you part and partial, part and parcel? Do you agree? Do you not agree? If there are bylaws that can be changed, does that mean that one has to live by the bylaws? And if the bylaws were previously set, does that mean that they're etched in stone that we have to live by? If the people are the government and people are the republic and people are the nation, doesn't that mean that we can change and modify things as we see fit? I think so, and I think you need to search and look for more. Search for more on Searching for More YouTube channel, as Toriano Obashengo L has already covered this, as well as Asir, the Duke of Tears. We have evidence that proves that we are indigenous Paleo-Americans that are here, and this is our nation. So regardless of the religiosity of the temple and Drew Ali, we have a divine right and inheritance to this land. What vehicle are we going to use? How are we going to organize our communities in order to unify and be one and to reclaim our inheritance? So the National Divine Moorish Movement is within you, and collectively you must work together to come one accord, for our people depends on it.
Peace. Islam. You there, Moor?
Oh, yes, I am. So I was talking to the audience.
Islam.
Peace in Islam.
Peace in Islam.
Islam.
To all the Moors worldwide. You got a special Canaanland Moors class today with the good brother Nehesu and the searching for more Moors. The Moors that's always searching for more. So
thank you for having me on the show. Happy holiday, Shabbat Shalom.
Islam.
From the Canaanite perspective.
Go ahead, Moor.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here, and I thank you very much and for the opportunity to talk to you and ask you questions about some of the things that you posted, and to be able to ask some questions that some of my viewers and that I have as well about the concept of our natural right being part of the temple, not being part of the temple.
And so thank you again for the opportunity to collaborate with you. Because you know me, man, I'm always searching for truth. I'm always searching for more.
Islam. That's a fact. So yeah, we could start anywhere. Anywhere you want.
So that video I put together basically because a lot of people come into the Moorish movement as I have, and we kind of go hard in the paint. And the best representation of us Moors is most definitely, this Moor Science Temple of America. But as we have seen throughout the period of time, we have the files, and I've covered on Searching for More. I've read the files, the Muqarrabian files. Muqarrabian files. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Muqarrabian files. Hopefully I said that right. And and I'm searching for more because, as I come into my indigenous heritage, which I have been taught by, Zephaniah Abraham L. and by Toriano Obashingo, and learned about genetics from Tyrone Cannon. And those have been pretty much the pillars who have allowed me to search for more in my identity. The only representation of us that I can find is the Moorish Science Temple of America. Out here in Sacramento, California, we don't really have a temple set up or a temple situation. I was working with Ramiel Bey, who with the Great Seal West, and under him, who's also with Taj Tariq Bey. I've had some experiences and some run-ins, not say run-ins in bad ways, but I've had some encounters with them, and decided not to participate in that. Pretty much is based out of the Bay Area, San Francisco, and there's a few Moors out here who want to organize, especially after you get a traffic ticket, taxes. But question about
you're breaking up. Just so you know, you're breaking up.
Okay, so maybe am I a lot clearer now?
Yeah.
I'll slow down my speech. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, all of a sudden started going crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So there's not a lot of opportunities, and I don't know where to go, not being part of the temple. And I see the great benefit in participating in the temple, and I see a great benefit in some ways not, because of some of the abuse that's taking place within the temple. And so, I know recently you posted about Taharka and Taj Tariq Bey, good brothers, great brothers. I love both them brothers. And I seem to be very confused as to some of the follow-up Taharka was talking about, and about part and parcel, and just how, when we have dialogue, look at the paperwork within these FBI files, I'm even confused about what did Drew Ali sign, what did he not sign, and if he put us on the map, how does that? And he put us on the map. That means there was millions of Moors or hundreds of thousands of Moors that are now put on the books, in which some people say helped cause the Great Depression. So, what is your thought, Grand Sheik, about, do you have to be part of the temple in order for us to be Moors? And if we're not part of the temple, does that mean we do not have a birthright to this land?
Once you realize that your nationality is your birthright, you know that birthright only comes through mother. And that's the only temple. If you're gonna say a temple,
That's the temple. Mother.
Okay. So, given the fact that, you know, I have a reason not to agree with that because I have a T1A1 mother. She could be Moorish, she could be Viking, all around there, European mother. You know, my father's DNA is E1B1B, which is the most definitely a Berber line. And I know through the scriptures, what we call scriptures in the Torah, I know that I know that what it says there is basically that descendancy is passed through the males. And so if I have a European mother and I'm of mixed heritage, does that disqualify me from this birthright here?
No, because even the Europeans in America told them 1 drop of nigger blood makes you nigger. So don't even try to play like we don't know who you are. So
Okay.
So
So
there's either full-blooded or amalgamated.
you call me amalgamated Moor? I could take that.
Right? Like that's just what it is. It's not your fault. You know what I mean? Like even with the European, it's not their fault that they're European.
Right. I didn't choose to be in this skin.
All right. But
you know,
even though the appearance would be, what people use to, say they represent or stand by or support or whatever. There's dark-skinned people I wouldn't back before you.
Okay.
If we're gonna use skin complexion, because because I know that you're a Moor, I know you know Toriano, you know the Moors who I know. So anything they're talking about means nothing if they're not saying that they're Moors too. For me personally, so that's why I don't deal with how people look or whatever. If you want to deal with the DNA, let's deal with the DNA. There's more women on the planet than men, so no way men are superior. No way. It's impossible. Because it's always been like that. There's never been a time that there's more men on the planet than women.
That could be a blessing and a curse for us, man.
Yeah, but it is what it is. That's just what it is.
It is.
You know what I mean? We could have a 5-hour debate about it, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Here we are. How are we moving forward?
Right.
With what we know we got to deal with.
I hear that, and I receive that, and on that patrilineal side, I do think, I do think in the Canaanite scripts, it does lend forth, patrilineal as well, and matrilineal, and I think we could take that both ways, knowing who we are. And you mentioned about we didn't choose certain skin. That's why I think that it is a divine movement of knowing who we are, because we're all amalgamated, and the blacks, quote unquote, blacks here don't know that, they could be Melungeon, they could be a whole bunch of mixtures of Seminoles and a whole bunch. It was a gradual fall that took over a period of time. So traditional tribes, as they on the Americas, I'm just going to use the Americas, not just the Moroccan across the Atlantic, but just in the Americas, as the brothers and sisters here have been, have lost wars and over a period of time, we were mixing with other tribes to become Seminoles and so forth, and the Gullah Wars, and
But regardless of what, all those cultures were matriarchal. They didn't play that patriarch whatever.
Okay.
There might have been there might have been the idea of the victor telling the story, of course they're going to push the patriarchal stuff as the history of something.
And that would be a European perspective, because usually us indigenous inhabitants don't really trip on that chauvinistic ism.
That's just what it
we
is.
Never,
you know?
Yeah, they created monotheism and polytheism. We have no idea what that is. What is monotheism? What is polytheism? If it's monotheism, why is there so many different names for God, different aspects? And I think it's the fault, of our own people this time to start thinking themselves separate when they're actually part of a collective.
Yeah.
And, that's part of the problem, to start thinking like the colonists until, Drawley started dropping it,
Right.
Okay, I really appreciate you help, some of your answers in that regard. So I'll be amalgamated more through my father's side, which still holds title,
which is
to this land.
the dominant gene.
Okay.
Because remember that if we speak, once we're talking about male Asiatic and a European female, you're talking about the Moorish harems and all that. There's no other time in history where there was this arrangement. So it's, a reliving of the past. So your dad act like a Moor, but then he doesn't know, but you know that you're a Moor in this time, when him having a European wife is Moorish. That's a Moorish thing. Moors brought that. There's nothing to be mad about. That's what it is.
All right.
So being that we went there and look what happened, let's deal with it properly this time. We deal with it under principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You're not going to look at skin color or whatever. You're going to look at a man by his actions and by his character. You're not just going to say somebody's whatever. You're going to humble yourself to make sure that you have ears open when you're supposed to have ears open, and mouth closed when mouth's closed. Because everything doesn't need a response. But this relationship is something that's pre us. It's just history repeats itself. You know what I mean? All these brothers that have a European wife, technically, they're Moors, technically, because that's harem action, and only Moors had harems.
Yeah. And right. With that said, yeah.
And children and children that came from that union sided with the mother. Children that came from that union sided with the mother because it was a harem.
You bring up
this is the whole concept of what we got today that we're dealing with. Because remember, it was Moors. They just replaced the European with the Asiatic, and now she's the one with the fatherless whatever. It's the same harem action.
You're bringing up a very good point that I see here when in the psychology and the social condition of our people and the fatherlessness within our society, and people marrying opposite races, or people, not even just opposite races, but people getting together and having partnerships that circumvent or undermine the brothers or the sisters' consciousness of who they are because of the lack thereof.
trying to get in relationships to compensate for what they missed. I know some smart brothers who have gotten with a European or non-European, but having to compromise their consciousness, of who they divinely are, to kind of to follow along with what their woman says or what their man says, and this consciousness I can see continue, especially with all the things that they're putting out. We have the weed and seed programs to kill inner city violence. There's a lot of the prison rate, the felonies of marijuana that we covered earlier this week, and how to expunge your record. And when you're talking about this, you're talking about the faculties of one's spirit, and these mechanisms are in place to where nowadays all of our warrior men are now seeming to gravitate towards their mother, taking on this European mindset. When I say European, nothing derogatory towards the European. I'm gonna say Western culture,
right?
Because it's a mindset,
right?
And I can see how the harems and how our history and how that fast forward is affecting us today, and how that's still kind of applicable, and how we see our nationality and our birthrights and not being willing to stand up for what's ours,
But this is again why Juali said young and unborn, because talking to people who are older is a waste of time. They already gone through the ringer. What are you gonna do with them? Get a sponge mind, not a concrete mind, if you're gonna build a nation. That's why he brought the two children on the stage. You didn't bring some adults up there who were grand chief and grand governor or whatever. He didn't bring the title holder sellouts. When they're at the convention, everybody knows the story. If they're in Moor Science Temple of America, when Noble Drew Ali brought the children on the stage or whatever and told the Moors that they're a nation, he brings some adults up. How come he didn't bring adults up who've been holding the post for the past 20 years or 50 years or whatever? How come he didn't bring up all the dignitaries who would ever have them stand on stage? Because they're useless.
It also sounds like, when I was watching your commentary and I, made that video, from my, not saying super extensive, but I spent a lot of time to access the language of Hebrew, and I would like to get more time in my life to go through more in Arabic and Aramaic and Metanetter. In the video, I stated that the people are the republic, are the government. And so the children, you're saying that the children are the future, but they are, it's our responsibility, obviously, to raise them. But I think that in the video, I kind of agreed with you when you were talking about the people are the nation, not an organization. If you agree with that, then that would mean how, even if you incorporate it, or if it's a trust, whatever kind of way you develop it, it become a corporate or whatever you want to say. It is the people that ultimately are the nation, and the children are the future of that nation. Is that that's kind of what I'm kind of gathering from?
Right, and all I would say, instead of saying the future, I would say the children are the beneficiaries.
I like that.
So it really sinks in what they're there for. Which really is supposed to slap us 5 times to get our stuff in order, so we could have something to give to them.
I agree. And so if that's the case with the Moor Science Temple of America, and people, saying that, it almost seems with the MSTAs are title holders of some parcel, and that they hold some land because they are a temple.
But that Moor Science Temple of America having that position would only be because they're in bed with the demos.
The demos?
The UDOTS corporations and Canada corporations. Because if their position is like the municipalities, for example, we all know that People's Court is some BS. We know that, right? That's not real stuff. Now, how is it that a municipality is going to give a Moor Science Temple of America a Moroccan Day? Not a Moor Science Temple Day, a Moroccan Day. And that Moor Science Temple of America, who got the invite, didn't tell all the other Moroccans. They just told their quote-unquote temple. Those people aren't for the nation, if that's their behavior.
Now, who is this and when did this happen? Can you break down a little more? And if, I'm not trying to be adversarial, but I would like to
go online,
identify those names and play. Huh?
You can go online and you can research the Moroccan Day flag raising in Philadelphia. The Moors in that jurisdiction are Moors who are in bed with the city of Philadelphia. That's why they can go to City Hall and do whatever. That's why they have, every time there's some type of proclamation for something in Philadelphia, it's this temple that's getting it. It's these Moors that's getting it from the city. Just them, nobody else. When there are other Moors there doing more work than those Moors.
So who is this organization? I didn't hear.
It's Moor Science Temple of America.
What temple?
11 or something.
Oh, okay. So Temple 11 Incorporated, and now they are taking the benefits of other temples, and they're excluding other Moors because they have some kind of contract and arrangement with the city.
That's what it has to be if they're having a Moroccan flag raising and they don't tell any Moroccans. They only tell Moor Science Temple people.
Wow.
That's a problem. If you're Moroccan. But if you're not Moroccan, if you're a Moor Science Temple member, then it doesn't matter because they're gonna look at it like, oh, that has nothing to do with them. That has to do with those people's club. But those people's club aren't the only Moroccans. So obviously, if the city's doing this flag raising thing or whatever, and they're supposed to be only dealing with these individuals, how come they put out something for everybody? And how come these individuals didn't tell everybody? They kept it to themselves.
I can see that being beneficial for the Moor Science Temple movement, but I can also see that being detrimental in not being able to let the people know of things that are due to them, so they kind of on the way are taking possession of being gatekeepers, and in a way, would you have them organize with other temples and unite as one temple, or have a structure within themselves? How would you like to see that play out? I know this is a total different rabbit trail but this is something I didn't know about.
That's already played out.
They already slept in their bed. There's no figure. There's no figure out. Like, I'm from the generation of Moors who, when certain people are calling themselves supreme grand sheik and all that stuff nowadays, when they were only grand sheiks and divine ministers and all that stuff, they had sit downs with my master teachers. This is before they were somebody. People look at them today like they're somebody. They're not anybody. They already had sit downs with my master teachers. And they didn't get on board with where my master teachers were going, because they're playing this club, Moor Science Temple of America. And they're mad that people aren't playing that. And they're letting other people know, don't play that. This is not a club. This is about your nation. I'm telling you, as Moor Science Temple of America, we got charter and all that.
So I hear the discrepancy that they're playing kind of like what the Shriners do at parades, but they're not putting in the civil work for liberation of the minds and bodies of our people.
Exactly. Like one of the Moors said in the chat, the Moorish flag is over 10,000 years old. What are you telling me about Moor Science Temple is something?
So Moor Science Temple didn't exist then.
But the Moorish flag did. What did Noble Drew Ali bring back to us?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
flag.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, so is the flag Moor Science Temple of America, or is Moor Science Temple of America the flag?
Is the flag Moor Science Temple? Yeah, I hear you. It's all about the flag.
Oh, okay, so if it's about the flag, then why are people talking about a building or a religious corporation or a civic organization or a metaphysical temple? Why are they talking about those stuff?
Well, we need to use that stuff in order to organize and structure ourselves in a civilized way. In order, because I can see that it's important for us to have some structure and some autonomy in this, but then I can also see how that shoots us in the foot when we play the club game and we don't allow other individuals to participate. Because I don't know, as coming into this, I wish we had a way as a collective to interface with the city and help restructure and shape policy for, even though it's a corporation, that shit affects people's lives.
Yeah, but that only affects people's lives because they're wards of the crown.
Exactly.
If they weren't wards of the crown, they wouldn't even need those people and their corporation.
Correct.
So that's that's where Noble Drew Ali directed us.
Correct. And so in doing so, I'm just trying to spell things out clearly. In doing so, what has happened is that they have gone along with the incorporate and not just sanguineous status.
Exactly.
Of blood right.
Exactly.
And so therefore they are in contract with individuals and functioning in a fashion and form that is of a fictitious. They're functioning like Jacob in the sense that they stole the birthright, and it's Esau's birthright. Esau's red, Adam. You look up his name in Hebrew, it goes back to the first man of Adam, Dam being red. And, I think there's some teachings within that, the trickery of tricking. So basically, them doing that is keeping people's just sanguineous functionality of how they're supposed to operate as sole heirs to the land
and they are now in the jurisdiction of contracts, maritime law, and statutes and codes, because they are recognizing and agreeing to the 14th Amendment citizenship.
Voluntarily. Don't forget to put voluntarily in there.
That's 14th Amendment, baby. Right, I hear you.
So now they can't blame anybody. And then even if they are blaming somebody, they're gonna call him some 14th Amendment status. And say a 14th Amendment status did something to them. Sorry, plaintiff in error, Dred Scott, 2,555 billion case, where we had to put plaintiff in error, and these people still don't get what the point is.
And I think that's very difficult. You know what I mean? It's like, this is between the lines, between the 2 points that I find myself into in Sacramento Khalifa, is that I could get a few crumbs, but I'm owed the loaf. Because I get a few crumbs, I tend to be happy. Like what did that Yeshua dude said? Even the girl said, the dogs even eat the crumbs on the floor from the master or whatever, when she was trying to get some of his teachings. And so we're taking some of these crumbs when the bread factory in the field is ours, and it's very difficult because we do want to see. And I think what it comes to is the point of having to sacrifice and having to take ourselves a little more serious and not compromise our birthright and be like, you know what? No, I can't. You give me some breadcrumbs. I'm hungry as heck. However, that loaf of bread on that table is actually mine. And because the individual is thinking about their body being hungry, because they're not hungry, they're Moors. They're not hungry because their name is not hungry. Their name is Moors, not turkey hungry, but
yeah,
the nation. But because they're hungry, they're thinking about themselves and not the overall ramifications of what that could do to the children. Because I can see that now that they have propagated into this system and functioning as such, that there's a whole bunch of legislation around them. But if they're functioning like that, they're putting their children and everything at risk, and that can be undermined and thrown out under them just by some statutes and codes.
Mm.
That's interesting, man. I didn't even know about. You keep on bringing up great points, and so in your video, I really appreciate you taking the time to answer some of my questions, and I'm a verbal processor, so some of the things I might be a little bit long-winded, and I apologize to your audience.
Well, it's all good, bro.
That's kind of how I am.
It's all good.
In your video, okay, thank you, Moor. In your video, you stated that it was interesting that I'm Taharka. I love you, man. Love you, Taj. I have questions. Don't know y'all like I know Kudjo or Toriano or Zafanya. However, you guys are out there, and so you guys critique me as well. But I was very confused with some of Taharka's. It seemed like he was approving, but not approving what Taj was saying. And are we to fall? Then because he was critiquing what the prophet said, but then taking everything the prophet said as the word of God. And I think that I have an opinion a little bit, but I'm here to ask questions. I kind of see a two-part side to this, balancing back and forth. Could you kind of hammer some of that understanding out a little further?
I would say that if I'm not for debating,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because truth will prevail. You know, if two people have truth, then there's no need for any debating about anything. You know, there's no
True.
need to compare notes if we both know we got the truth. You just take my notes, give me your notes. If we both got the truth, then to put it together to see what something is or whatever. Because we're supposed to be higher beings. You know what I mean? No different than the two dudes that doing the martial arts and they two got different scrolls or whatever. Then they both realize that, hey, we put the two scrolls together. Now we have a third freaking art. You know, they're playing pick sides or whatever with the truth or you know, try to prove whose one is whatever. They always put it together, form the Trinity. All the time, everybody else. What do we want to do? Always want to debate something that's not debatable.
So is it okay to take what the prophet has said and to execute it for the people in your city, in your community, and somebody else in another state and city community interpret what the prophet said and function a little bit differently? Is it that etched in stone? How does that work?
Once people are not violating the principles, you know, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you're not violating any of those, nobody should be having any issues with anybody, personally. Because first principle alone shuts down anybody trying anything funny. You know? Now, for me to say that, oh, I know Noble Drew Ali brought A, B, C, D, whatever, A to Z that he brought to us. And then there's some other more in some other territory or whatever. He's like, Noble Drew Ali brought A, B, C, down to Z for us. And we put our notes together and we match up. Then I just got myself another brother.
Right.
It doesn't matter what his thing is called or whatever, because we're going on principles. We're not going on what school of thought you came out of or whatever. That's why I give honors to Moors like Zephaniah and those Moors.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're still Hebrew, and repping with the L and Bay and all that, just to show these people that you guys are talking crazy. What do you mean? I speak the language and I'm telling you, you better have a nationality. And it better be Moors.
Yeah.
Because they go against the grain. They go against the order of the BS. And the whole order of the BS is everybody avoiding the fact that we're Moors. And then when we do say that we're Moors, now they're trying to say that when you're on this side, you better be part of some Moorish temple or whatever. When that's a fiction. Doesn't matter whether brother or sister is in the temple. That's your fellow national. And then based on their actions, for example, we're talking about Taharka or whatever, we have a whole track record of his actions to show that he's probably not on the side of the prophet, even though he says that he is and has t-shirts and all that. Because there's no way that you're on the side of the prophet doing that type of madness that he's doing. No way.
So, did you finish or did you finish your?
Yeah, I'm straight one.
Okay, so what I hear you say, in my understanding, is that when we have, and I'm going to pull up
my Circle 7 Quran's printed out, brother. I love this thing.
Yeah.
And it says, the first thing it says after the table of contents is know thyself and thy father, God Allah. So I see that I agree with you that this is a principal thing, and it has to do with divination and the principality, because of if we know ourselves, the God within us, you know, we have to have our body right, so that in our mind right, because that is God consciousness. When we have God consciousness, then that, and another brother has God consciousness, then we are able to function in uniformity, because that brings peace, and that's what God wants. God wants peace, and for us to be at peace. And I do think that reading my Circle 7 Quran, all I have to do is read the second paragraph. It says, you know, do not use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those who love. Of course, it says Jesus in there, but we are the Haru, we are the Jesus. And so what I'm hearing you say in this is using these principles within the teachings of, he used Jesus because that's the framework that people's minds are in understanding spirituality, but the principles are applied that he taught us in knowing ourselves, working with our brother. We would work in principle, we would function the same. So if we pray differently, if we structure, if we have a different number of cabinet members, a different number of financial officers, a different number of taxes, I think we should be organized, and we should be part of a tax system within our own nation. I think we should, to support our people, we should sacrifice this. We're getting killed in the street. You know, you pay tax on all the damn blunts of liquor and all the other damn things that we buy. Why not put some of those monies towards the temple? So basically what I'm hearing is that if we're functioning in uniformity and principle and God-like mindedness, our actions, in our love, in our vibration, and the medunetter of the gods will fall through us. In my own understanding, what that is, then we will be able to harmonize on a divine level, the higher tree of life, and the lower part of ourselves could look differently. It could be structured differently. Our temples could be different structures than how it looks, but we're basically functioning off of being just sanguineous, being blood to the land, the air, the certain rights. But if we take through all these lessons, which is to love first, then that love would go forward, and we would work together, not to alleviate our immediate circumstances and compromise who we are, because hey, I got a traffic ticket. Hey, I want to stop paying taxes. But what we would think is, hey, I'm tired of, you know, this is the land that you're on. Okay, it's my land. However, I'm not appreciating the police brutality, the immunizations in schools, and we would be able to function. I think that's, you know, I think that's what I hear you saying is the lessons and the principles are most important, but how we express those in our communities is going to be based off the same energy, but organized and structured and expressed maybe a little bit differently on how we support our nationality. Does that make sense to you?
Right, because if every individual is basing their existence on these principles, they themselves are going to stay in their lane, because if you violate it, Allah's dealing with you. Ancestors are dealing with you. Shango might check you if you want to play around with violate the principles. And Juali said, you know, our pain is how our people have to learn. So most times they get pain because they don't learn.
And that's divine. Because if we look at my paradigm, for your audience don't know, I was raised Christian, or we've been on here with the Hebrew Israelite thing. I didn't really get the Hebrew Israelites, not a Hebrew Israelites out here, but I did take the Jesus concept into being Yeshua
which actually is Joshua. Jesus doesn't translate to Joshua. Joshua doesn't translate to Jesus. Yeshua doesn't. But anyways, I continue my studies into Hebrew, and I got into this movement. I forgot my point, but I forgot this movement. I forgot my point, brother. Damn, where were you just last said? I forgot my point. The last thing you said. But anyway, I had a point. I forgot, ladies and gentlemen. But anyways, going forward into this and learning the Hebrew and the concepts of who we are, and knowing that this stuff, the lies are within the Hebrew. And if you believe me or not, you can do some research. Greek is older than Hebrew, but the what they call Paleo Hebrew is actually Canaanite script. And we start because they flipped the script, and that stuff comes from Medu-Neter. And you can look at certain Medu-Neter, the alphabet, and see how they change things. But so coming into this, I embrace the Hebraicness, quote unquote Hebraicness, and these concepts. I lost my point, and so what I just said might not make sense because you said something that was pertinent. I apologize.
It's all good.
But the concept. So the concept. I'm so sorry. The concept with what is going on with what Drew Ali is teaching us is about that love, and it's about that expression. And so out here in Sacramento, I know that we don't have that, and I would love to fly you out here to some of these African marketplaces and whole workshops, because there's a lot of people out here who want to be part of stuff. So as we organize, how if I was to start a Moor Science Temple in Sacramento, what would be my proper steps into establishing that? And again, I apologize for going on a rabbit trail from what you previously said. I did lose track. But what would be my first steps in establishing Moor Science Temple out here, and how would I go about, quote unquote, incorporating that, or quote unquote organizing that?
Well, because of the power position people take with Moor Science Temple of America, that route is a tough trail to walk, because people are going to play games with you in order for you to get a charter, in order for you to whatever. They're going to play games with you, period. Right? Our thing is that people didn't play games with us. The Moors that we were introduced to this information from didn't play any games whatsoever. Charge for nothing, no type of fiat exchange, no type of anything that you would say is, against what Moors should be doing or whatever when they interact with other Moors. So we came in on a certain level with regard to this information. Like we know that this is supposed to be humanitarian. So do some humanitarian work. You don't need a temple to do that. You don't need a temple to go feed the hungry. You could just do that as Moors. The idea of having the building and all that is for the organization, not necessarily the sign on it. It's more for the people to get themselves in order, start handling their own affairs on that low scale, which is why we have grand sheiks and chairmans and all that, because we were really being brought into how government runs so that we can handle our own affairs. You know, this is why certain things were implemented. That's why we have a constitution. That's why we have a flag. You know, all the institutions, had a energy behind them. You don't need the name to exercise the energy.
That's beautiful.
You know what I mean? Like I'm
I
not
like
I'm
that.
not
It's very
taking
beautiful.
away I'm not taking
Yes.
away from having a temple or Morris Science Temple or
No,
whatever.
you're not.
We're Morris Science Temple of America because we just happen to be in contact with some sincere, true, faithful, the Moors who know what Drew Ali talked about. You know what I mean? That were down with what he was, like those, that's just how it worked with us. We interacted with those Moors first, off the top. And because of that, that set a standard of what we're supposed to expect from Moors. If we weren't getting it how those Moors gave it to us, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah. Who were those? Who were those brothers that were your teachers that brought it in? I'd never heard you mention their name, and if that's something that's off the record because of
Oh no, we did
temple business, that's fine.
We did Skypes with these people and all that. Everything's on our channel. Daweed Ali L, Denim L, Alim El Bay.
Ashe.
You know, Rosmariah Bay.
Yes. Know her.
Grand Sheik Nature El Bay.
Ah, yes.
You know, like these are Moors who early, these were the Moors who we were learning from. Early.
Right on. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Those are the first Moors that we contacted. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Brother Sear, Steve Coakley.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Del Jones. People knew about the true history. They knew what was up. There was Asiatics who knew about IRS being a fraud and U.S.'s corporation or whatever, and they weren't Moors. You know, Ashra Kwesi.
Yeah.
You know how much heads Ashra Kwesi bust open on some debating if somebody wants to debate something? You know how many people he smashed? Just because once you have the truth, you don't have to apologize. Once you have the truth, you don't have to apologize. They have to accept that.
I agree.
They have to accept that truth.
I think as you say this, you know, I realize some of the mistakes that I've made, you know, in, you know, being gung ho and, you know, and understanding, I think it's the nuance when I first came into, you know, understanding my indigenous rights and knowing that I'm a Moor, is that those things, you know, the tickling doctrines and those things, the building and so forth. If it was about the building, then how come they didn't preserve the Chicago building that Drew Ali was in?
Right.
You know, they didn't have.
And you got to ask these questions.
You know, I do.
I mean? It's not.
That's why I'm talking to you. Yeah.
It's not like we'll bring it up so people can be sad about what they don't have or whatever. Nah. The whole idea, again, going back again, is that the children need to get this.
I agree.
We have it and we can do whatever with it. You know what I mean? Fine. Whatever we get, we get. But they should have an opportunity to be able to fully grasp this. Just like how we came out of the womb, black and all that, and we knew that black, white BS. We knew that red bone and light skin and all that crap. Knew that. We need to be reaching this planet knowing that we're mortals. No questions asked.
I agree. It reminds me of that movie Jupiter Rising. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't going back to clean no damn toilets. You know, and with that said, I was on the phone. I was asking Toriano. I was like, man, you put in a lot of work, Moor. Why? And I'm gonna admit this right now. This brother is probably the most nuanced, mysterious brother that I really gravitate towards. That's over my head in a lot of regards, and I'm reading his book. And rest in peace, as I mentioned his name, Shay to my ancestor. You know what I'm saying? Who wrote, Prince Uriel Bey, the consecrated talisman. And I don't know, he did. See, the thing is I don't understand how people take the convention that Drew Ali went to, trying to use the first temple. Now, this is no disrespect to Sheik Love L, because I love him, his mother. I love him. They've been on the show. There's no disrespect because he's putting in work where other people aren't. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying overall, just that, temples claiming, that they own some of the land without have done any geodetics or geodetics or whatever you call that stuff, geonetics, where you surveyed the land. And my question is, how come this magnificent brother, Prince Uriel Bey, and I don't know all of his history, how come we don't use his congressional records, his records in the Senate, his records in, I have the consecrated talisman, economics, and I have his ad morium, materia mea, and he did the geonetics. I can't remember the term right now, but he has done such a thorough job that this is the book. These are the books that I think that should be, some of the focal state of what we're doing. And I don't understand.
Yeah,
you could explain.
Well, look, like we're saying, with everything, eat the fish, spit out the bones, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm not sure about the circumstances of whatever, but in reading those books that you're mentioning or whatever, there was a part in there talking about him having World Service Authority identification and stuff like that. Which at this time now, we know for sure that, that's not the jurisdiction for Moors. Because we got nationality and birthrights. So we don't need to go to some foreign European to get some card from them to be a Moor. Now, there might be some Europeans who have access to certain things and we can contract with them and have certain things that might make the transition easier. Maybe. Right? But
okay.
that's something that I saw in the book that was a red flag to me, because I know we don't do that. Because I personally contacted them, and you're under them when you get that stuff.
So
You're
what?
not. You're not.
So
You're
let me
not.
hear you correct.
You're not your more self.
So what you're saying to me is, and I have to, you know, spell this out for some of my audience members. So I'm gonna upload this up because we're not at Canaanland level with some of my audience members, and those who are, you know, congratulations. But this is easy, even for my clarification, because I haven't read all of this. So you're telling me within this book, this brother went to Europeans to get national recognition that was given to him as a card instead of being a sovereign, quote unquote sovereign, telling them who he is and creating his own identification. Or, you know, because I know that we're going to have to interact with other nations. We're going to have to interact.
Yeah,
You know,
but
we
yeah,
don't even have our
but
own.
again, at the point of him going to them, right? He's already Moor. Because you have to go to World Service Authority as a Moor. You can't go as a Negro or whatever.
Okay.
Right? So that's what I was saying, that going to them because, you know, they're going to pull some strings for you. You're not going to them for the card. You're going to them because at that time, when Moors were active, and Moors were so active to the point where World Service Authority was contracting with Moors to give them World Service passports and all that. And then Moors not really looking at it from the perspective of they're really the authority that should be given that stuff.
Got you. That's kind of, yeah.
Because like you're saying, that's my wife you're sleeping with. Like, what do you mean?
And you make me go to work to pay the bills,
Right?
to live in the house, that the food that you're eating that I bought while you sleep with my wife in my bed. I gotta pay taxes. I gotta work extra hard while you're on my land. So with him, because this is a new topic, because you know, so with him, he went there and they were giving them world passports. I see what you're saying. I
I mean,
wasn't
and
familiar with that.
it's not like, you know, most def went to them. You know, and look how they played that game. Just because of them being in it. But again, this is years later. Just like with Moors, who used to be able to go to the county and file anything. Now you can't even get to the county to file something right now. Certain counties.
Only if you, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're not letting you in there with no papers talking about your sovereign nowadays. Yeah, right. You know. But yeah, like the info is turn your brain to water. The Prince Uriel books. You know, talk about having our own finance and all that in there. You know, but it's like
just the only point that you don't agree with is just the point that we are not declaring who we are, but we are getting their identification for recognition and subsidies and help and support instead of, which goes back to the point of what we're talking about before, which goes back to the Hebrew, is that in the Hebrew, the word nation is Am or Goim, but Goim is other foreign nations. But Am is the people. So your principle of this is that as a people,
we need to implement these things in recognition for ourselves and let people know who we are as a collective instead of going like 10, 15 people, 100 people, 300 people saying, hey, can we have this identification? Can you recognize us and can we get support?
Which is the whole point of Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs carrying on that same work of giving their people name correction papers and proclamation papers so they can handle their affairs, but as a unit, because you're not going to be the only one that has these. Thousands of other Moors have already done this and are doing this right now.
And who was that again?
Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs.
And who's the leader of that?
There's not a leader other than CMB.
Is there a chair? Okay.
Ain't no leader but CMB of that.
Okay.
Right, and then you would have to have his info for you to see if you resonate with that. Just like you have Prince Uriel's info and you resonate with that, you check whoever else's info, you resonate with that, and then those become the foundations that you keep going to keep your reference point sharp, because you're going to get lost out here right now with the amount of misinformation they're flooding the place with.
Yes, sir.
That you know, you're lucky if you can get the three books right now.
Yeah, they're hard to come by.
They're hard to come by. And again, we're talking about pertinent information relative to nationality, birthrights, spirituality, history, everything.
I agree with that.
You know?
And I think that with that council, and it functions and it's functioning in various territories now.
What's that?
The Great Seal Council.
Been around. It's not anything. It's not anything started yesterday.
Oh, hey, brother, I'm learning because I'm searching for more. I'm swimming through a lot, brother. I'm swimming through a lot of stuff to get to talk to you and to understand information. So, like you said, there's so much misinformation. Are they connected to the Great Seal West out here in California?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hence Great Seal, and then same thing with Grand Sheik Nature, because Great Seal is really it's a mindset.
Okay.
Great Seal is where Temple Moors don't want to go.
So it is an association with Taj.
It's an association with anybody who's active and constitutional.
Okay.
Anybody who's astrologist. Anybody who is metaphysician, Gnostic. They're Great Seal. Anybody with that pendant.
Now, do they intervene, or do they interface with the corporations in dealing with matters of our own affairs? Like you did say collectively, I'm just asking more specific questions, because I've come into them, like I mentioned earlier, in my earliest stages, and Brother Hakeem, rest in peace, he died, and ever since then, I haven't had much structured meetings with them because Hakeem was our main man out here in Sacramento.
Mm.
So do they speak on our behalf? Is there activism within their representation for situations that we have individually?
Well,
or is this just a grand body for political purposes to engage in civics on that higher level?
It's more so the latter. But look at it as we are a nation. So if you say that you're El or Bey, you're governor, you're God, whatever, then you should be able to handle your own affairs. You should know how not to get into BS. If you're getting into BS, then you're probably not really living according to the principles. You're probably slipping. Your shoelace is probably untied. Because once you realize that this is yours, you're gonna carry yourself a certain way. People are still looking for somebody to whatever for them. This is not the somebody for you thing. This is the you handle your own affairs. Why? Because you're supposed to be studying. And your studying is so that when affairs present themselves, you can handle them. Only reason we would be in the position of saying that we need somebody for the representation of whatever is because we feel threatened. We feel like there's a threat. We feel like somebody is trying something. But most times, people are only trying something if you're trying something. If you're not trying stuff, everything would run smooth, smoother than you can imagine, claiming that you're more. You have so much doors opening up for you that you don't even know what to do with yourself. Because it's evident that we have serious problems. And the problems that we have aren't going to fix themselves. So they should start with self as far as the fixing. It should start with self.
I agree with you. And I am thinking this is what you just described to me sounds like the colonization of the Catholic Church and also the issues of quote unquote, which I think goes to a point that I forgot earlier, was the stiff-neckedness of our Hebraic individuals, which I say are the Canaanites, by always looking for individuals to save them. When we look at that that Torah, which we were never supposed to be set up with the king, but with the council, and with those, and individuals are always looking for salvation. And so I'm going back to the Catholic utilization and the paradigms of our minds that we're always looking for a savior instead of saving ourselves, because that goes back to what Drew Ali said. He said, I've given everything that you need to build a nation, to go save yourselves. And people quote that, but I don't think people live that, nor do they. I try to live it. I try to figure it out. I put a lot of things on the line becoming a Moor. It has split up my family. It has got me some financial hardship, some heartache, because the truth that resonates in you, you have to compromise. If you compromise the truth within you, you can't be a vessel for God to function in the world. And we're here to save humanity. If you can't function in that capacity, then you are not a child of God in that sense.
and we're all supposed to be Elohim. And I think the externalization of salvation is that colonialism that we're still suffering. And so I hear you, and it's so hard. It's so difficult to study all these things, the statutes, codes, and laws. And I hope to get further information on the Great Seal. And I'm gonna rekindle my it was always been there, my understanding with Ramiel a little further out here of the Great Seal West, and to try to, because it does take people, and it does take us as a nation to be, people to be willing to put themselves, to put their property, I guess you function under a trust or whatever, but you can still put a lien on it, however it works. We have to give, and I think we also judge each other. I'm gonna get to the point, but we also judge each other and say, that's a Negro. We all have this, I hate my, like Fuji say, you shoot another nigga because it looks like you. And that's why I can't stand listening to hip hop, because it's propagating that mind in my head of how we could shoot and attack and kill somebody that looks like us, but yet we're going to bend over backwards to help out the other individual, the European or Western individuals, Western mindset individuals, and that, and so I think that we do need to, learn how to trust and find ways to let those people who have the faculties and the know-how and the integrity to rise to the top to handle the affairs. And that we need to not tithe, because they're not Levitical Cohen or priest, but we need to give taxes to people who are providing us resources and studying like you would do priests. We should be paying, we should have a priest. This is divine. We should have our own temples where we have people that are praying for us, in the divine light, and seers, many as we can, and also paying for people to create jobs for people who can come for legal services on your behalf. And I think that with that external salvation of Jesus and the way that we've kind of started believing in the propaganda of, that blackie, that darkie, and light skin is better than dark skin, light skin, you can't trust light skinned cats, they're house Negroes, which isn't true, because I'm a light-skinned cat that's always been the one who get arrested for my darker brothers who couldn't get in the club because we're wearing baggy jeans. But that's a different point. But it goes to the point of, I think that we're coming into this as being a newer Moor, looking at the temples and learning how to structure and organize ourselves. We have this ability to over scrutinize and to over emphasize and criticize our brothers and sisters when we're the divine gods, because we've taken on the European mindset. And so I do look forward to, and I know that I have an issue with trusting anybody. And I know that, I'm trying to come out of this Eurocentric or this Western, because Europa is she's black, but she's a Moor, but Phoenician, but coming out of this and start putting money aside, because I do agree that we live very comfortably. We live comfortably. I'm living comfortable, but because of things I've gone through, I've learned how to scale back. I don't need to eat steak or whatever. It doesn't necessarily need to eat it, because we should be healthy. But there's a lot of things in our lives where we could, quote unquote, cut the fat. And cutting that fat, which has to do with tithing as well, give it to the priest. You understand Levitical law, cutting the fat, it could be metaphorical in a sense that you're getting rid of things that you can give the priesthood in order to look out for your benefit, because every scripture talks about salvation in the sense of the physical body, not your spirit and soul. It talks the nefesh. They're talking about your ruach, your animal being, or your neshama. Talking about your animal being. Right. So I agree with you. I'm hitting a point. I'm sorry, brother, but I'm hitting a point.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I'm hitting that point that I agree with you that we do need to. I'm glad to see Taj and Tahar come together and all these brothers come together, new understanding or not. I don't have to agree with everything. I'm not going to agree. I'm not even going to agree with myself half the damn time. But we need to cut the fat and look at this book differently. Esau was tricked. we're supposed to give the fat to the priests so that they could do certain things for us.
Yeah,
And
but then when we go back to Noble Ali's lessons and him bringing us the silent brotherhood, they say forget the priests. So the cutting the fat, in my perspective, is cutting the priests out the way. The cutting the fat for me is cutting these dirty Moors off.
Cutting the dirty Moors off.
The cutting the fat. The cutting fat for me is getting rid of all the BS books that I don't read at all. Give them to somebody else, so
True.
I could get some more stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes,
right?
And to clarify my analogy was using Levitical priesthood, cutting the fat in your life, getting rid of everything that you just said, saving those resources for the crap that we don't need. You don't need to buy a blunt, smoke a bowl. You know what I mean? The money you spend on blunts of beer, donate that to your local temple, your organization with your brothers and sisters. Whatever, but I do think that getting rid of the dirty Moors is good. But I do think that we need to elite. When I say the priesthood, I'm saying the people in the capacity who could function to be able to support a lifestyle for them. That's what the Jewish community do with rabbis, and the Muslim community do with imams, and Christians do with priests, is that they give these people a salary to be able to function in a way that they want to see function. But I'm talking about with civil engagement. So I was kind of using it in
yeah, no, I got your perspective.
Okay.
But again, that's how the people lost everything.
Is it?
Because they put it in the hands of the priests who robbed the treasury, built themselves mausoleums and all that type of stuff when they died, instead of giving people the birthright.
I did read something about that in the FBI files. $8,000 stolen.
That's what they talk about, that's stolen. Point being that forget priests, handle your affairs. They don't middle anything. It's going to be the people themselves that wake up and realize that this man brought back everything that it takes to save a nation, and he told them, take it, save yourself. Obviously, you're about to lose yourself if he's telling you save yourself. You should probably slow down and realize, what about yourself are you about to lose since you came into this info?
Because you're going to play another one of your greatest hits. I agree with you, brother. And I'm just trying to find out, when we save ourselves, we still got to function collectively, because I'm looking at this. No, I don't get and unfortunately, those brothers did that. I'm trying to figure out how we could pull it together. But I think integrity. I think if those brothers had integrity, we wouldn't be, things would went down differently. But I think the structure is appropriate to a certain degree. But the implementation and the question of character and its implementation was the downfall of it all. But I agree with you in a sense that
so then that coming together was useless then. Because if you come together and then there's downfall in 2 days, then what was the purpose of? Then that was a front then. And if that was a front, then that was insincerity, which we got chapters in the Quran about that.
So that would be individualistic, or the individual, but not the structure.
So if they're doing the individual, then that means that it's not about the nation then.
Correct.
Oh, okay. And the people who are the individuals are the ones who always tell you the Moor Science Temple, and they don't do anything about nation. And everything is about getting people to join up to the club and abandon the nation. And then you have the same thing going on where these people are giving everything to the priests, and the priests aren't showing them anything for what they're giving. Zero. Nothing shown. And they keep going back instead of realizing that it's time to handle our own affairs. You know, if you're really about nationality and birthrights, then get with some other people who are down with handling their affairs. Now, you don't have to say it's a body politic or a study group or whatever like that. You know, it's just Moors who organizing themselves. Because there's no other options right now. Trust me. You just put up the video that Moor in Canaanland left Canaanland to go join somebody else's temple or whatever, and they have him carrying chairs.
Not to laugh at the individual, but that almost seems like it's a punishment. But go ahead, yeah, really.
Like, what do you mean you carry? What do you mean? You didn't carry a chair when we were doing our stuff. Be at everything and all that stuff. You don't carry no chairs. Then all of a sudden, the supreme whoever, you know, you got to touch his garment. And now you're the man.
Sensationalism.
You know what I mean? That's what it's come to. But we know that there's a lane. We know that there's a lane. Because like you said in the beginning, we rose up under Moors that set a certain standard. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Like for example, you know, when you take the position of Mufti, right? Like Mufti really has authority to cut your hand off. You get one warning. Don't ever violate. Because we could grab you by your collar, throw you out. Not because of whatever, but our pillar as muftis is justice. So don't play around. You're not going to open your own door. I'm opening your door. You sit down and wait for your door to get open. You're not opening the door, try to get out or whatever. You wait till Mufti gets to your door and then you get out. After Mufti opens your door. That's how we were brought up in this.
A leader is a servant.
Because the only way it's going to work. It's never going to work with hierarchy. It's going to work with the man on the top cleaning the toilets too. So the toilet man can see, oh, wow, like this man's, wow, he's the head guy and he's cleaning toilets? Damn. Then I'm going to make sure that I'm cleaning toilets super better than him if he could do it. And he's the head of this? That's why when you look at Drew, he sacrificed. He did everything for the Moors. And people around today claiming that they're giving honors because they're having some convention or whatever. They're giving honors to Noble Drew Ali. They have a convention. It's their 500th convention, so honors to them. They haven't done nothing with this to fix the problem, being that they're quote-unquote Moor Science Temple of America and they have supreme religious jurisdiction power to be a Vatican tomorrow. But they'll never do that. They'll never, ever pull it all together and implement what's supposed to be implemented. Because everybody's going to want to be the man of that. Everybody's gonna want to be on the Supreme Council of the whatever. Instead of allowing the people to elect who should be the supreme whatever. Guaranteed. If they said, okay, you know what? All the Moors, we're gonna have a ballot and you can vote for who's gonna represent us all as Moors. Guarantee you, 99% of the people who are in some seat today are being taken out the seat, and somebody's gonna be in that seat instead of them. Guaranteed. And then guaranteed they're not gonna like that, and they're gonna start talking about they want to take Moors to court and all that stuff, violating some stuff that they filed and trademarked or whatever. Which you have the Mukarrabin files where you saw Moors already did that to Moors.
Yeah.
Because they said Moor Science Temple, you take Moor to court, you have to be COINTELPRO. You have to be. There's no way that you're not. You claiming to be Moor Science Temple of America, but nobody put you on. You had this brilliant idea that you're just gonna call yourself that. Probably COINTELPRO. Somebody sent you. So again, we were one of the last people that were able to get a charter openly. That once you were sincere, you build with the Grand Chief, Divine Minister, National Grand Chief, Grand Governor, and they think that you can assist with the movement, you get a charter. It's not like that anymore.
You know, you didn't know I was a super Grand Sheik El High, right? I'm joking because that's what it seems like is what you're saying is people are freelancing and they're able to declare whatever they want to declare who they're being.
Yep. But the who us being is strictly based on everything that man laid down. You know, nobody laid it down. Gave a standard. If somebody presents themselves, they got some title. And you already know that you checked this Moor's info. And they're presenting something to you that is against what you read for yourself. You can't see those people as your kin if they're willing to violate that easy. Like there's Moors who, again, came out of that same schools around the same Moors, right? And the exercising of their birthright is strictly based in using Quran as a reference. They have certain chapters in the Quran that's what they're going to use. Whatever situation is, okay, they're going to use that one. When the thing came up with the proclamations, lots of Moors were using the Our Authority proclamation to get the proclamations. They were putting the Our Authority to let them know how far back this goes. And again, remember, all those things were kicking off with the Moors in Philadelphia riding off the Resolution 75 coattails to be where they're at today in that jurisdiction. But then there's Moors all over that are exercising their right. That's not even part of some Moorish whatever. They're exercising just based on knowledge of who they were studying from. And for them, that works. For them, they found the middle path for themselves. And then that's the balance. That every Moor, once they're driven by the principles, they should be able to find the fine line to walk. And then again, that reflecting off each other, that striving for those exact same things, how could we not be prosperous? Like this is the unit. Like this is the unity. You know,
Yeah.
the unity is the mindset.
It is. It's the temple. That's the temple.
That's the temple
that God lives in.
That's the temple.
So I want to ask you, with the way we think about, the way, okay, I want to ask you, so many people, including myself, I'm a public educator, I'm a teacher. I've done certain things to quote unquote grasp my straw man and try to perfect my title that allows me to see that it is a straw man, and I'm using it as a vehicle to access a system, kind of like being plugged into the matrix. When I sit in that chair, plugged in the back of my head, that driver's license and all that stuff, and I did certain things to capture that, place it on public record, did some things. And now, with that said, I mean, everybody's financial situation is different. And so, are you advocating, or are you not advocating for individuals to engage in voting, even though they may have grasped that straw man and so forth? Should they not vote as well? Because, what I'm saying, since they're like shareholders of this corporation now, instead of being citizen, the 14th Amendment citizen, there can be potentially shareholders, because we know the Rights of Indigenous Act, that individuals they're not allowed to close us out of the system, but allow us to function independently thereof. But are you advocating, if I'm wrong with anything that I'm thinking, please clarify, but are we allowed to vote, or are we not allowed to vote? Or you advocate that, or do you not advocate that? Because voting seems to make a difference on city policies and all this other stuff that's going on. Could you comment on that?
Well, the issue is that voting, if it has to do with the cities and the whatever, has nothing to do with you anyways. So your vote's useless. Because that's it doesn't, it serves no purpose. It's just part of the game to keep the BS going for the dumb public.
So even though the game is going, the game is still being played. And if I'm just asking this question because this is something that, has come up in discussion. I would like.
No, it's put it like this. If everybody doesn't vote, there's still going to be a result.
But if everybody that is a Moor doesn't vote, that voice doesn't get heard, and there'll be a different outcome of that vote.
Not in a municipal jurisdiction. That might happen in a federal jurisdiction, but definitely not municipal.
Like certain city measures, county measures.
Waste of time. Because Moor is supposed to be looking at the bigger jurisdiction. And then the municipality is not in favor of, in that perspective. Like, they need wards. They don't need free people. Wards is how those run.
Okay, could it be seen as, okay, let's say, could it be seen as that you're a shareholder of a corporation? I have some stocks. Since I have some stocks, I have voting power within certain measures that go down within this corporation.
Right, but that jurisdiction of that corporation is limited to paper, not land.
Correct.
So yeah, you can be shareholder, but that's only on paper.
So therefore, are we allowed? So therefore, as a shareholder
of paper.
I
remember, a shareholder of paper. We never talked about value of anything. We never talked about anything of substance. You're a shareholder, but it's of paper. No substance. Nothing's there.
Okay, I agree with that.
All right.
But it's still going to, here's my concern. I'm contemplating this. It's still going, in a way, being a shareholder, being a shareholder with that piece of paper, your vote within, let's say, Tesla. I'm a shareholder of Tesla. I get to vote within Tesla, how Tesla operates. If I don't vote a certain way, Tesla operates differently. But if a group of people who are shareholders vote a certain way, Tesla's going to operate differently. So if I'm a shareholder, knowing that it's a straw or whatever, and I, let's say, vote a certain way, it's going to change on how it operates. If they operate in that operation, could eventually affect how people. It's going to create a belief system how it's supposed to operate. How Tesla is going to come up with a policy or a belief system of how it should operate, and then that could affect our daily lives because. Because I've not seen.
Yeah, but the only reason Moors talk like that is because they're looking at Noble Drew Ali and Blackwell and Oscar the Priest and all these people, right? But they were doing that for the nation. They weren't doing that for some club or from some city, whatever.
Got you.
Like they weren't voting for a Negro to be there, whatever. Oscar the Priest was Moor Science Temple member that declared that he's a Moor. That's why they were voting for him. Look at Attorney Aaron Payne.
Mm-hmm.
He became big time or whatever. He wasn't small time. You know about Noble Drew Ali though. You know about Moors and all that.
Because I know most definitely we cannot be part of this government because
it's a corporation. So
and even that is 3/5 of a people. So with the 14th Amendment, it functions as even though it wasn't properly ratified, it functions as if it was properly ratified.
No, but it wasn't properly ratified though. How about we just stop there? That it wasn't properly ratified. Just like Civil Rights Act was voted as unconstitutional. So there's no need to bring it up because it's unconstitutional. Well, let's just say it's not unconstitutional, and then you start talking about Voting Rights Act. You look crazy to the world.
But the system is running as if it is been operating with the 14th Amendment in one face, but in the behind the scenes, they're killing us legally. That's why we can't get prosecutions.
No, but there's no prosecution because the status of the victim is dead.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Exactly.
But it's dead because remember, they volunteered for that. Drew Ali bin told these people that they're Moors, declare your nationality.
So when people continue to vote instead and to try to change city measures and county measures, they are part of a corporation based off of a faulty premise and not functioning in their de jure status, and are actually participating in the fraud because it's unconstitutional from the get-go.
From the
But if
jump.
if they were to function with the Constitution and claim their birthright and function as a Moor, then they would be able to handle their own affairs and engage collectively with these bigger bodies.
And without voting, the state and whoever else is supposed to back their claims and assist them in whatever it is that they're trying to do to uplift themselves after this colonization. But it's only going to be done when we realize that you're a nation. Everybody, like we said, people make up fake nations and they get assistance or whatever.
Shit, they took our book and they took our book, went overseas and created a whole, you know what I'm saying, to displace a whole bunch of people just so they could create their own.
Yeah, which, you know, I mean, again, it's the whole thing about consent and volunteering certain stuff. You know, no different than they took the Moors' birthright from the ones that Spain and all that. The other European Jews that were in Spain with the Moors. How come Jews turned European all of a sudden after 1492? Everybody knows the Moors and the Jews got expelled from Spain. That was some Europeans, though.
If we are the people who are entitled heirs, and you know, this goes back to, I'm kind of trying to combine a couple concepts here to ask a question. If we are the heirs to the land, and Drew Ali is the one who helped organize, and I think in some of the papers it looked like he closed a temple or something, a couple of temples or something, and we are the heirs of the land. We have people who say the flag has no star on it, it has a star on it. Do we have the ability, instead of calling it, I mean, don't we have the ability to pretty much organize in our geographical location the way we see fit, and to organize our bylaws, change our bylaws based upon the principles of Josali and the Circle 7 Quran principles, and to even name ourselves whatever we see fit in being, and use the flag as we so see it?
Once you're not violating anybody's rights, and once you can back up your claims, you living by the principles, you going by the Holy Covenant and all that, then who am I to argue with that? Who am I to argue with somebody who's living by the principles and they're not violating anybody else? They're living in peace and harmony with nature and with the universe, but they don't live where I live. I'm going to tell them they can't do something? I'll be a fool.
So I think that's very important to say that, because I think what we get caught up in as, you know, as Moors, is that we think that our people look we are homogeneous in genetic representation, and that's nowhere near the fact. The only nation state is Japan. But I think that we get caught up as quote unquote Black people, because I'm going to incorporate, because I think they feel victims of this too. We're all victimization of colonization, so that's why I'm including them in this statement. But it seems as we get caught up, especially more so, you know, Black people more so than Moors, but it affects Moors, that we get caught up sometimes in phenotypes, what someone looks like, instead of the principles that someone's functioning as being a Moor. So we might look at a real light skin of Moor and be like, oh, no, he ain't Black. But in a sense, we're functioning, when we say stuff like that, we're actually functioning in our black capacity, because it's not only black thinking, you know what I'm saying? It's black thinking, but we're functioning with that, you know, the leftover baggage. And so I think that as a people, you know, we have to get over our understanding of, you know, that our people are variegated. And so just because they don't look, quote unquote, like from Africa or black, that sometimes we don't want to work with them. We downplay that. But, you know, I agree with you on the principle part of this, that I agree with you on the principal part of this, that, I have that right. If we get together with more, we can prove it, back it up, because we have what's called the burden of proof, which is 25 USC code 194, trial right of property, burden of proof, which states that in all trials about the rights of property in which the Indian, quote unquote, Indian is who we are, certain quote unquote, certain way, may be party to one side and a white person on the other, the burden of proof rests upon the white person. And we are the Indians, according to, the Native American Handouts, volume 15. So I'm really glad that you said that, because, I'm trying to emphasize the point, because we got to get over, phenotypical representations when we're supposed to be spiritual beings. And when we're these spiritual beings who are operating and functioning on these principles that Drew Ali have put out, then we're gonna function in peace, we're gonna live at peace, and we're gonna be able to create a harmonious environment, because there's no reason to all of a sudden usurp any kind of authoritative positions or to get remedy to our situation without any organization or any peace. What's the purpose of just create anarchy? And that's not going to benefit humanity. It's not going to benefit our children by destroying something and not having something in place. Right. But most definitely by our gathering together and getting over this Negro mindset, we're going to be able to create a greater peace, because we're going to be functioning in true divine law, and we're going to be functioning as gods and creating peace on earth and saving humanity based on those principles. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, and I just want to emphasize the point of the Negro phenotypical mindset.
Islam.
Islam. So it doesn't matter, because I'm going to go look back, because on one of our shows on September 13th in Searching for More channel, you were on, and we had a thing with it was AD after Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey. You came on the show with Dr. Aline Bay, and there were some questions that we got to towards the end of the show that we didn't get to fully address. And some of those is kind of like, what did Noble Drew Ali incorporate? Moorish Science Temple of America or Moorish Holy Temple of Science? And I know you covered this, but I just think that, these are very important to continue to repeat some of these basic information for many of our audience members and those who are searching for more and who are within the Canaanland Moors who are new and so forth. So what did he incorporate? The Moorish Science Temple of America or Moorish Holy Temple of Science? I know you already covered this, but
yeah, no worries. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois, November 29, 1926. The name Moorish Temple of Science changed to Moorish Science Temple of America May 1928 in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of the State of Illinois.
Would that be asking, so my interpretation is that the incorporation, and I think the interpretation of the incorporation of getting people together was already there. The nation was there. The paperwork is incorporation to engage within another corporation or another entity.
Ain't it simple? Because you're looking at it as nation first.
if he brought nationality, he would have first to have brought us a nation. What is the name of that nation? These are questions coming again from September 13th.
Yeah, the nation is Moroccan.
Okay. And I would like to say that Moroccan, in Morocco is in the Americas as well. Would we consider the Americas as Morocco?
Exactly. Because America is a transliteration of Al-Marak. Or Morocco.
So within this, ask me, what is the level of importance? And how does this fit? And how does this change any functionality of how the temple and our people operate with this question? Okay. Where did Noble state he appointed someone Grand Sheik? Show me Noble's words that he appointed someone to title other than Sheik. And well, we know he did.
Let's just say,
I think he did that after the great meeting.
Hold on. That's right. Right. So, if Noble Juali told the Moors Friday, October 26, 1928, a warning from the Prophet for all governors and grand sheiks and head officials of all temples, 1928, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that mean he made somebody grand sheik?
It sounds like that's pretty clear to me.
Oh, okay. All right. Need we go further?
I think you should nail the coffin. I think you should put the nail in the coffin if you would like to. I mean, you don't need to. But I'm pretty sure if you want to put the nail in the coffin, to lay this one to rest, because I'm tired of hearing about this one coming up all the time.
Yeah, but it's gonna keep coming up because the people are caught up in the priesthood. When the priesthood is dead, but they're not gonna know the priesthood is dead because all of them think that the red book belongs to the Adept chamber of the Moor Science Temple of America, and they're never ever gonna get to read that because they're never ever gonna be worthy enough to be in the Adept chamber. When that information is supposed to be public knowledge. So all these people know that the priesthood is dead so they can stop chasing after priests, aka grand sheiks and grand governors and all these title people who are claiming to be somebody. And just handle your own affairs. Whatever manifests, whatever it is that manifests, you just deal with it based on the knowledge that you have.
So does the 1010 595, how does that play into today's role and functionality and its importance with us being Moors?
Again, because of all the corruption and the madness that went on with regard to things like, Noble Juali Trust and file number that you're reading, CM-based stuff in the Library of Congress. It's really about repping for the nation. Forget the lodges. Forget the lodge games. Lodge games are over. No more time for lodge games. If there's an institution, it's to teach the people, it's to feed the people, it's to people have a safe haven somewhere to go, people have a bookstore to go to, people have, whatever, but it's for them. it's not some building for people to go to, and then they go and they pray, and then they leave there and they go do whatever, and all they do is go to this building to pray to Noble Drew Ali and sing to Noble Drew Ali, or just have secret meetings in there and closed door meetings in order for you have to know the secret knock and all that. Wasting the people's stuff. When again, these people know better. Because the whole thing is the people realizing that it's theirs. So you're gonna have to deal with it. But it's not about clubism. As soon as they start playing clubism, know that they're playing you. As soon as they start talking about they have the official whatever that Noble Drew Ali brought, and that's the one that he brought, and you're just finding out about this today. You're the official, you have the official whatever that Noble Drew Ali brought, and we haven't seen 50 videos of you showing the official whatever that Noble Drew Ali got. You have that hiding in a corner until people challenge your authority, then you want to pull out stuff and say you have the official something. That's not really.
What if I have it as something that's official? It's a copy of the official.
If you have something that's a copy of the official, you're definitely not official.
No, I saw that commentary. I thought that was beautiful.
You're definitely not official.
Yeah. So, well, Moor, you have exhausted my questions.
That's good. That's good.
Well, I can't think of any more that has been coming to mind. I really, thank you for allowing me to come on your show, and I look forward to coming on your show to answer, ask you more questions.
For sure. Yeah. You already know. Whatever. Glad we decided to do it this way too. So,
yeah, man. Me, I like this. I like to have the studio time.
Yeah.
I love all that stuff. I love all that. I love.
The fly look,
man.
Yeah, the fly look. You gotta make it look. You definitely gotta make it look good, and you're doing good with that over there. With having access to a platform and using it. You know what I mean, so that people can find some more. It's some good work that you're doing over there. And honors to you. Not just the searching for more work. I'm saying even to the work that you're doing with the children and teaching and all that, because definitely something that's needed. Our children seeing these examples, of people who look like them and who sound like them and know what they know and like what they like and are able to steer them in the right direction. And we already know that when it comes down to this information, it could only steer you right. It could only have right things start happening to you.
Well, I appreciate, I really appreciate that. And, thank you so much. I've been watching your videos and, it's been very inspirational and very influential in my life. And I appreciate that you're able to call out anybody and everybody, for the purpose of nationality. And when I talk to you, I get the resonance of Marcus Garvey for sure, Deuce Muhammad. I most definitely get that resonating through you when I talk with you. And there's, I'm not going to lie, as I mentioned earlier in my life, I was raised, Christian in a way. My dad and mom broke up, whatever, my dad's a, Black Panther, whatever, just had a bad rap when I was younger, whatever. And, I was kind of going to these churches for a while, and, the iconography is way worse now, but, we had those felt boards of, white Jesus, saying Jesus loves little children. It's a great principles. And I always saw myself as a person who loved other people. And then these graphics kind of stuck in my head. And as I grew up, I kind of had this picture painted in my head of how life is supposed to be with the white picket fence, because in education they teach you if you go to school, you know, you do your work, you be obedient, life's going to be okay for you. You're going to be able to go to college and not let us know that, you know, going to college these days is detrimental, because you're going to you leave college, you might get a job outside your degree with this big old student loan bubble. And, you know, a lot of, you know, and so I try to teach a lot of entrepreneurship. And I think that is some of the difficulties I found within my school system. And coming to this paradigm has really shifted my life, because it's teaching me how to really study the law, be smart with my mind, be keen, and don't be so laid back, no laissez-faire. Don't just sit back and, you know, people smoke weed. That's cool. That's what you do. But you got to be a guard at all times in spiritual matters and things that come into your mind. And I'm going to say that, you know, the hardest thing is, you know, for most of us is, you know, what do we do? Because we became Democrats trying to buy into, you know, government jobs and stuff like that. And we bought into the system because it gives us incentives. You know, it has incentives that you pay this, you can get, you know, unemployment if you lose your job. And we used to do that for ourselves. The Black Panthers, because of their standing up, has actually refined this machine, this game, to where they have compensated things we used to do for ourselves, so that now we become more complacent. And I have learned in going through this, you know, how much more diligent I need to be with my mind, my studies, and my spirituality. And it does take a level of compromise and a little bit of aggravation from people who don't understand, and a sense of emotional intelligence to let people be where they are and to love people where they are, so that you don't break those bonds in becoming a Moor, because you get the truth, and all of a sudden the people who finally get a little bit of truth, now they treat it like they get a toothpick and they start trying to hit people over the head like it's a baseball bat. And you can kind of see the intent of their heart with this little bit of information. And, you know, to me, I know I kind of went hard in the paint when I figured this out, because I was pissed off about a lot of things, the fraud and the corruption, and just me I'm a wannabe academic, and I thought people ultimately would be just as excited to know about their true indigenousness. But what we're talking about, we're talking at a high level of the things who are your audience members. You're really functioning, you know, Canaanland Moor audience, you're really functioning at a high level, even to follow this conversation, understand what Kudjo is talking about when you follow him, because the everyday person doesn't even comprehend these concepts. And we are, you know, the mocking jays. We are, thinking divergent. We're divergent thinkers, and not divergent in the sense of being different, but we're actually being different because we're following the God's law and the law of the Constitution, the contracts that are put out for us. And so, you know, and I just thank you so much for letting me to share that part of my life story and my mission and what I've gone through. And, you know, when I look around, and after I had to bury my dad, or, you know, after he died, and all the things, some of the things he had and some of the things he didn't have. And when we're talking about cutting out the fat, some of the things we need to cut out the fat in our lives, because it's all of an illusion, like Wizard of Oz. What's behind all these illusions is somebody pulling these damn strings, and we're here chasing these carrots, thinking that if you get a little bit more money here, a little bit more money here, the more money you have, the more you spend. But if we get more money, if we keep our lifestyle simple, keep the fat off, you can help out your neighbor. You could have health care for your grandma. But because we want certain things that are appeasing to our lower self nature, that are stimulated by our body, our lower self, we don't have those things to function in the higher realm. And because we're stars, we're Elohim, we're in the stars, and we need to pretend. Not to pretend, but we need to access a higher level stardom, because, you know, our ancestors are shining down upon us. And as the kingdom of heaven is at hand, because it's within you as well as it's above watching you. And we're connected to both at the same time. And I've just learned, you know, that if I want to be a vessel of God, I got to be willing to give up everything, because the works of this world is most definitely something that will continue to compromise your soul. And how many times have we compromised ourselves to work a job or to do something that necessarily doesn't benefit to our spiritual development or our divine being, and we're miserable. We get a pension, but yeah, we got cancer, we die 10 years after we retire. You know, I want to enjoy every moment now for my children's sake, and that, you know, and I just want to say that last piece, because that's what, you know, your Canaanland Moors has inspired in me, and I like that you just call everybody out, and you know, you know, and I really appreciate your time and efforts to teach your class and to do your due diligence, because I know you're not rich. You could be working a second job to, you know, to buy some whips or some books or something else, but you're spending it online just to change the minds of our people. And for that, man, I just give you the biggest props, and thank you for being a good role model and example for self-sacrifice for the greater good, my brother.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate that.
Islam.
So once again, Islam Moors, happy holy day once again to all of the Moors worldwide, regardless of your religious beliefs. Once you know you're Moors, Islam to you. We're gonna be live again on Sunday, 1 p.m. for Sunday's class. We're trying to gather up the Moors who went to Montreal so they can put on the record their experiences from being out there, you know, engaging people. All the Moors in the chat, you already know, peace and love. You know it's love every day, all day. And of course, brother Nehesu, Islam to you. And
Islam, thank you.
Peace and love to your family as well.
Thank you, Moor.
Peace and love to all Moors. Islam, and to all, a good night.